am really nervous to film this. Hi, I am Naomi, for those of you guys who don't know me. I've been on a bit of a hiatus for the past 7 months from YouTube, and then I just sort of vanished. I don't know what it is about pets. Every time I sit down and film, they're like, "What you doing? Hi!" Lana's just right there. She's a cat. She's not my cat. She is the house cat. What am I saying? I was gone. And I used to post weekly videos, and they used to be a mix between music, I'm a singer, hi, and what I used to call spicy theology, because I really enjoyed sitting down and sharing the research and opinions that I had on certain religious topics pertaining to Christianity, because I identified as Christian. But surprise! As you can see by the title of this video, this is kind of my coming out as ex-evangelical, as ex-Christian. I thought very long and hard about doing this video, because separating yourself from a community that you were so involved with and flourished in is really isolating. And I know that this video will disappoint and sadden many people that I love, and I don't want that, and I don't intend that for anyone. I was very publicly Christian, and I spent so much of my time growing up and as an adult being involved in Christian communities, and my YouTube channel was very publicly Christian. So I feel like it is just fair and honest to be public about my deconversion as well. So that's what I'm doing, even though I'm really scared to do so. So this is my story. I hope you stick through to the end, and I hope that if you've gone through something similar, that listening to this will make you feel a little less alone, because I have felt pretty alone through this whole thing. I guess my biggest fear right off the bat is not that people are going to be upset or ostracize me or anything like that. That's not my biggest fear. I think my biggest fear is people dismissing my story and saying things like, well, you were never a Christian to begin with. You never really believed in God. All you're going to have to do is just take my word for it that I did, that I genuinely believed in God. I think it is hard for Christians to come to terms with the fact that people can have a genuine faith and then have a change of heart and a change of mind and come to a different conclusion. Growing up, my connection to God felt as real as the socks on my feet. I loved the Bible. I loved going to church. I prayed constantly. I wrote in my journal to God. I wrote him songs. I was obsessed with the dude. I brought everything to him. I sought him in prayer. I sought him through the Bible. I believed that I had a relationship with him, that I would talk to him and that he would communicate back to me in various ways, either through how I felt or coincidences or things that I found in the Bible. I genuinely felt his presence. And any of my friends in high school can tell you that I was the biggest Jesus freak out there, and so many of my atheist friends really got sick of me and me coming up to them trying to debate them all the time. As I grew into adulthood, I found that the things that I had an aptitude for, like speaking in public, researching skills, my love for music, my love for people, was really suited to being an evangelical Christian. Those are the sorts of things that Christianity really pushed for people to be involved in, and I loved it. I really thought I'd found my place, my niche, and I loved serving God, and I loved serving the community that I was in through my gifts. In the past few years, I was in worship band. I was the youth pastor of my church. I co-ran and attended multiple different Bible study groups. I was the Uni Fellowship Arts Cluster Leader, which meant that I had to organise events for the arts faculty Christians. I discipled friends. I attended conferences, and eventually I was doing communions, running communions at church, and preaching sermons at my church. I even studied ancient Greek at university for 3 years so that I could have a better handle on the New Testament. And then of course I had this YouTube channel. I cannot stress to you guys enough how seriously I took my faith and how seriously I loved my faith. I loved the community that I was in. There was a real family feel to being a Christian. So maybe you think that I got burnt out, that the things that I was involved in eventually just made me go, nah, none of it, I don't want any of it anymore. But honestly, I love being busy. Serving, studying, teaching, the Bible, it was a real passion of mine. And being able to be paid to help out with youth, the fact that, you know, I was getting experience through being a part of the university fellowship faculty, it was really my bread and butter. It's the thing that I really loved to do. I would be lying if I said that there weren't times that I did feel overwhelmed. Through this whole period, you know, I was studying full-time at uni, I got married, I was building a tiny home, and I've always had a really vibrant social life. So there were times where I've definitely had way too much going on. But the idea of actually quitting at doing things for church was just out of the question. I loved it too much. So my deconversion didn't happen all at once, and I don't think it happens all at once for most people. It happens over time. Now looking back, I would say that the start of it really began when I started university, which don't take that to mean that I started having doubts in uni. I really didn't. Throughout my whole uni career, my whole uni degree, I was very devout and I didn't have many doubts. But when I started doing my history degree, part of doing a history degree is looking at historical texts and being able to break them down and critically think about them. How do we know that an historical event happened? And how do we know that it happened in the way that the person writing about said that it did? My history lecturer always said that he never believed in anything as historical fact, because the matter is that everyone has a bias and everyone records things as they see them. That doesn't mean that people are always trying to manipulate history, although that did happen quite a lot. But it does mean that you can't take everything at face value, and if you want to establish that something happened, you need to have extra evidence all the time and build a picture, you know, not just textual evidence, but material evidence. This led to my views becoming less conservative and more progressive, and I'd begun on a journey that I didn't even realize that I was on. Before I get into anything, I just want to preface by saying that there is so much that happened and so many things that I mulled over for a very long time in depth that I cannot cover in this video. It would take too long. So when you hear me mention things and you think, oh, I really wish that she'd gone into depth about why she came to that conclusion, or I wonder what happened there to make her then change her mind about that. I plan on probably making a few videos that are more in depth about certain topics. And if you have any specifically that you want me to talk about, just leave that in a comment below and I can tackle that. Yeah, I just want to put that out there, that there are going to be a lot of things that I just sort of glance over, and it's not from not taking things seriously or wanting to go into depth about them, it's just that this video will be too long. So when I got to university, I would say that, or maybe as I started university, I would say I held one heretical belief that I kept under the rug. I didn't talk to many people about it. I only talked to people about it who I trusted, because it was just not something that I wanted to stir the pot with. I knew that a lot of my Christian friends would disagree, and the culture that I was in didn't allow for deviance of any kind. And often people would say, like, you can talk about anything, no question is too stupid. What I experienced and what I encountered in a few of my Christian circles was that there was never a meeting of minds when it came to discussing different interpretations of certain passages. There was always a hierarchy of some kind where the person asking the question could ask the question, but then the person who they'd come to had to show them the correct way to view the passage. I don't know if this is just my personality, but that's something that used to really bug me. I don't know, there was just a part of me that really wished for a more equal footing when talking to people about these things. But I digress. That thing that was heretical that I believed was universalism. And that's the idea that eventually everyone comes to a faith in God and is universally reconciled to him, which just means that everyone goes to heaven. Woohoo! The most commonly held belief in my circles was ECT, eternal conscious torment. Changing my mind on this one big issue, I think, allowed my brain to challenge other commonly held beliefs. My newfound historical skills first came in pretty handy. Does that sentence make sense? Came in handy at first. You know, my passion for history made me even more passionate about the Bible and the history of the Bible and of biblical figures. This meant that I had a commodity that a lot of people didn't within my circles. And so everyone was always very interested to hear what I had to say on certain topics because I had that historical background to give new depth or insight to a particular passage. But these skills made me a lot more critical, and they made me a lot more deliberate in the way that I viewed biblical texts. And this eventually led to me seeing a lot of the inconsistencies, contradictions, just historical inaccuracies in the Bible. I realized that if I was going to apply certain critical thinking skills to other texts, not from the Bible, I had to apply those to the Bible. That was more of the intellectual side of things. From the personal, more relational, emotional side of things, I had been rereading the Old Testament with one of my best friends, and I just got really sick of trying to justify things in there that honestly just disgusted me. And they were really confronting. There are so many incidences in the Old Testament particularly where God commands the Israelites to do things that to me seem incredibly immoral and against what I believe the character of God to be. I knew all the arguments to justify why he allowed genocide or why he allowed rape victims to be married to their perpetrators or why he wiped out the whole entire earth with a flood. I knew all these arguments to justify it, but I no longer wanted to use them. It became a real moral dilemma for me because no longer did I have the intellectual or historical reasoning to back up why I believed such events occurred. I no longer really had the emotional desire to justify said things. Things like stoning gay people, or many incidences where God tells people how much a particular slave is worth. So I guess you could say that was a real turning point, and I didn't lose my faith, I just lost my conservative way of interpreting the Bible and opted for a more progressive way to view the Bible because I wanted to save my faith. I wanted to cling on to God and I wanted to cling on to Jesus. And that was the only way that I knew how, was if I decided to view things more progressively. And one particular YouTuber who helped me do this was God is Great. Brenda, she just had a very refreshing way of viewing the Bible and her relationship with God. I became very humanitarian in my outlook on life and on politics. I couldn't understand why women couldn't teach in church anymore. Couldn't understand why homosexuality would be a sin, why sex before marriage was wrong, all these hot button topics that people love to debate over. My second biggest fear is that people will assume that I deconverted so that I could hold these beliefs, or so that I could live my life the way I wanted to instead of the way God wanted me to. People like to say that people don't want to be Christian anymore because they want to sin without a conscience, or they think that they know better than God. But I'm not going to give this much attention because the idea that someone would pretend God doesn't exist even though they believe he exists just so that they could sin seems ridiculous to me. I don't understand that mindset. I can assure you that's not where I'm coming from. I never really wanted to sin when I was a Christian. I did my darndest, my darned tootinest to subscribe to the beliefs of the Bible, even if they went against what I felt was true or what I felt was right. So then we come to the simple fact that I couldn't prove I had a relationship with God, and I couldn't distinguish events that had happened that could only be explained as God. I had no proof that the relationship that I'd had with him wasn't just self-fulfilling or coincidence or confirmation bias or my own intuition. I came to terms with the fact that maybe I had invented God in my own mind, and that was really scary. One day I decided to have a little experiment, and I gave myself permission to pretend that I didn't believe in God and see what happened. And honestly, the relief I felt surprised me. My mind was quiet and clear, like it had never been before. I felt alone in my thoughts, and that didn't make me feel lonely, it made me feel sane. And then from that day on, I decided to just delve into atheistic and agnostic sources just to entertain the idea and to see what the other side had to say. You know, how did people justify that the earth looks created? How do people have a moral compass if there's no God? What do I do with my life if there is no eternal one waiting for me after death? That genuinely scared me. But after listening to other people and reading and talking to people who didn't believe, things started to make a bit more sense again, and I started to feel less anxious and less worried and more hopeful and excited. So how do I identify now? I am very cautious now when it comes to allowing myself to fall back into patterns of prayer or reading my Bible. This fear has come after many months of this new belief of mine, or lack thereof of belief, and realizing the ways in which Christianity really hurt me. I sometimes feel anger, I sometimes feel sadness, I don't know how to function as a normal human sometimes. And that's not to say that I'm scared of Christians or hate them or anything like that. It's just a lot of personal stuff in here that I need to sort through with a therapist. But it makes me very wary of religion, and it makes me very wary of anything spiritual, really. So I would say that at the moment I identify as atheist. I hope you guys will understand that this doesn't mean that I'm closed-minded. At least I'd really try not to be. It's the fact that I've been open-minded that I've been able to come to this radically different view on life, and I don't plan on putting myself into a box anytime soon. I genuinely love connecting with people and understanding their story and their side of things. And I'm not closed off to the idea that there is a God, but I guess you could say that I'm atheist in the way that I'm atheist about unicorns. Sure, they could exist, but it just seems very unlikely to me. So if you have gotten through this, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable. I am very nervous to upload this, so please be kind. I understand that a lot of you guys might have questions, and if those are more personal questions or you just want to talk about things, please don't be scared to DM me either on Instagram or Facebook, however you find to be the easiest for you. Or if you have a question that you want me to discuss in a video, then you can just leave that down below if you like. And either I can answer things down below, or if I think they deserve more of a conversation, then I will make a video on them. I understand that a lot of you guys probably subscribe to me because of my faith, and I know that this is kind of awkward for us now going forward, this relationship. I completely understand if my channel is no longer going to be serving you in the way that you need, and I'm not here to bash on anyone's faith or to discourage people in the journeys that they're on. That's not my intention at all. So in saying that, if you are a Christian and you want to stick around, let's chat about it. I want to hear your side of things. I want to hear, have you ever had doubts? How did you get through them? What sort of things keep bringing you back to faith? So this was very long. The construction is very loud, and I'm really sorry about that. Thank you, everyone. I love you guys. I'm sorry for anyone who I've disappointed or made sad, or, you know, they felt let down. I really genuinely am sorry, and again, let's talk about it if you want to message me. All right. Bye.